Mr. Schloss? And sir, what's your name?
My name's Dave Kalin. I actually lease part of that property.
Okay, Mr. Kalin. I believe we've met
met.
before on bees.
We're going to talk about bees again today.
Oh, okay. All right, Mr. Kalin, we're going to have Officer Hall go ahead and present his evidence.
Rick Hall, Charlotte County Code Compliance Officers. This COD 23-01198, address is 6026 Sweden Boulevard. Zoning is agriculture. The owner of record is Michael Schloss. On May 10, 2023, I conducted inspection observing the following violations: 2 RVs being used for living purposes, an enclosed trailer being stored on an undeveloped lot, creating prohibited use of the property. During the investigation, I took photographs of the property. I'd like to offer the photographs of the evidence as County Composite Exhibit Number 1.
So entered, if there's no objection.
Small property. That's from Tweaker's property. He trespassed on her lot. Or she gave him access. Those photos are accurate.
Okay, seeing no objection, so entered.
The notice of violation was posted in accordance with Florida Statute 162. I have had communication with the owners regarding this case. On July 31st, 2023, I conducted a final inspection, finding the violation still substantially the same. This is the end of my testimony.
Give me just one second, gentlemen. Okay, so we're not actually talking about bees from a county perspective. I'm sure you're going to bring the bees up, but we're just talking about the RVs being used for living. Okay.
And unpermitted structures.
Okay.
Let's not forget that.
What is the unpermitted structure?
I don't have an unpermitted.
Oh, those are in the photos.
Enclosed.
So I'm going to save your bailiff a lot of walking. I'm going to give you a large packet, and we're going to go through it page by page.
Okay, let's do it. Do you have a copy? Do you have a copy for council?
Yes, I do. Okay, we're going to start with the affidavit on the first page. That affidavit is for the statement that is attached therein that Mr. Schloss does not actually live at that property. His legal address, his living address, is actually in Naples. Attached to that is a copy of his driver's license, again, with his Naples living address. Next document is my lease showing my interest in this property for bees. Next document is the legal opinion from the Florida Department of Agriculture. Florida Department of Agriculture states that the Florida agriculture exemption is really not an exemption. It's a classification that was intended to alleviate the overburdening amount of taxes on lands used for agricultural purposes. This property, which we will get into later, is a bona fide agricultural use licensed state nursery. So when we get into this a little further into the state's documents, it talks about the Florida statutes, properties, and agricultural classifications, and items allowed used, stored, or maintained on said property. It references section 604.50. We could get into section 0.40, but that document should give you a good idea there. Next document is the section 193.461, agricultural lands, classification and assessment. I have highlighted that for you. Details exactly what goes on classified agricultural lands. It also gives definitions. Next document from the assessor's office. If you look in the current land use, ornamental and miscellaneous agricultural, it is not vacant residential as the rest of the lots out there. This lot has a principal use, which is a state licensed nursery. They additionally do chicken egg sales, other items, which we do have those licenses. it is currently zoned as agricultural. We get into section 570.86, definitions, agritourism, as well as the definition of farm. And we get into the definition of farm. It means land, buildings, support facilities, machinery, and other appurtenances used in the production of farm or aquaculture products, including land used to display plants, animals, farm products, or farm equipment to the public. Gets into farm operations, same meaning as State Statute 823.14. Section 823.14, Right to Farm Act. I've highlighted all the juicy portions that pertain to this property, right down to agritourism activities, which that does take place on that property. As you will see in one of the photos.
What is the agritourism?
Agritourism is a means for...
I know what agritourism is. What is the agritourism that is occurring here?
So, where they run not only just the nursery, but they also teach classes on plant maintenance and care, as well as they do seminars on beekeeping, which is where I come in and teach. Additionally, they run a working farm with pigs, chickens, and turkeys. They bring people in, educate them on how to take care of that in the husbandry aspect of it. Therefore, according to the state, qualifies them also as agrotourism. And we get into section 604.50, non-residential farm buildings and fences. Notwithstanding any other law to the contrary, any non-residential farm building or farm fence is exempt from the Florida Building Code and any county or municipal code or fee, except for code provisions implementing local, state, and federal floodplain management. These campers, the one is gutted out, which you will see further in the documents, or photoed, is actually a hatching house for the chicken operation, which I have in your packet there. It's the end of your packet. We haven't got to that yet. As well as the larger camper is used as the farm office. Those photos internally are also in there to show you that it is actually used as an office, not a living quarters. Section 604.40, I threw that just in there as part of farm equipment trailers. It is kept more than 50 feet from the public roadway. As the county so eloquently put it in 2021, those roads are no longer public, they're private. So it wouldn't pertain to that other than Vermont Road. Again, section 570.85, agritourism, gets into the state legislature and basically says the state or the county governments are limited in what they can dictate on farms. We've got our annual food permit. Next document that says we're legal to sell those chicken eggs as an agritourism as well as an agricultural business. It's a commercial entity. Next one is the food truck. That was one of the complaints early on. They failed to get it onto this complaint. That is used in the process of that as we are having our sessions. That food truck does provide service for those individuals that come there for training sessions. Next document is our certification from the state as a state licensed nursery. Next photo is our agritourism sign, clearly displayed on the front fence, and it meets the state requirement of a 1-inch minimum high lettering. Final document is the photos. The large camper, the fifth wheel, is the office with the egg storage, tool storage for the farm uses. The small camper showing the equipment that is in that camper. Items to hatch eggs, incubators, brooders. So I'm a little confused why we're still here and the county keeps pursuing this. I understand there may be some wanted changes in the ranchettes, but when you're running a bona fide licensed business as a farm, we're afforded the protection to choose what we use as an office or not an office. We've recently just poured some cement out the property and put in another shed to expand the storage because the egg production has gotten that good. So we need an additional building to house those refrigerators for that sale. We're going to continue to build out this property as a farm and nursery.
What's the, you haven't provided any information with respect to advertising business, anything related to the extra, other than the agritourism?
Oh, the advertising is online. Perpetually. It is,
What's it called?
it's Prana Farms.
Farms, okay.
Yes. Actually, you can see that in that photo that's right there. You will see it right on the front of that fifth wheel. That actually, if you can zoom in on that, will actually give you the phone number, the details of Prana Farm.
Excuse me, sir. This
Yeah,
year,
please.
this year here, even with the hurricane, which has slowed our sales down, we will still bust over $200,000 in nursery sales alone, okay? This is not a hobby farm.
Yep. When the state defines what a bona fide farm is, it says a good faith effort. This is beyond a good faith effort, sir.
Why, you showed me the information with respect to the property appraiser's listing of the current use as ornamentals, miscellaneous agriculture, but
So-
why is the property not received an ag classification?
That is ag classification.
What an exemption?
The exemption, yes, that is for the ornamentals. That's nursery. That's how they define it. They have codes.
No, I understand. What I'm saying is that for the ad valorem exemption that would be provided for an agricultural business, you don't have one.
So, a lot of those went missing this year. A lot of folks did not receive their little square card in the mail. Mm-hmm. Therefore, you're stuck relying on this document.
Sir?
We still fill out our paperwork every spring to say, yes, we're still performing an agricultural business. Otherwise, this would go back to vacant residential.
And sir, on my block specifically, if you check with the sheriff's department, there's been a crazy amount of mail theft on our property, not on our property, on our road in general. So I am sure that card is MIA with that stuff.
Well, I'm going
I
back.
don't receive, like I don't live there, so I don't receive anything there normally, so I don't check it all the time. I'm sure that's what happened.
But it can be verified through
Going
the...
back, I pulled the GIS, I'm going back, and I'm not seeing that the property ever received it.
Oh, yes.
Do you know what year it lost it in?
That was in,
There's no exemption in
Last year.
19.
My bonification?
yeah, the bonification.
There's no exemption in 20.
No, it would have been 21.
And there was no exemption in 21.
And that is why the tax office states that it is miscellaneous ornamentals.
And it even says how much the exemption is acreage-wise in that. Right on that page.
Yep. And when you get into the state's legal opinion,
I've never, I'm a little gonna have to question the Department of Ag legal opinion if it doesn't match any form I've ever seen.
no, I just took it right off because it was about 400 pages long, and I pulled out the pertinent information that was to us.
Do we have photos of the buildings on the property, or is it just the RVs?
You can see that right there in the picture right there, where you see the RV now.
Yeah.
You see the wood framing to the left of it?
Is it, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's another storage building we're putting in right now. So we just have the poles in the ground, the cement, and the top skirting for the trusses to go on. So yeah, we haven't even finished constructing it yet.
It's right here, they show it that
Yes.
that's what you're.
So
here.
here's,
There's another page here.
let me see if I can summarize this. So your position is that the facilities are not being used for residential purposes,
Not at all.
and that building permits or other things are not required because this qualifies as a bona fide ag use, and is subject to the permitting exemptions under the Right to Farm Act.
Not just permitting, also zoning exemptions.
Okay. So the criteria, there's a couple criteria for Right to Farm Act. I've litigated this quite a bit, so I know the issue is, but you have to have the use established for 1 year. It has to have a bona fide ag classification, which, in my reading of the statute, is the exemption.
Right here.
Okay, I haven't seen the exemption. If you could provide me that, that'd be great, because I'm pulling up your tax history, and I'm not seeing an exemption any year.
Yeah, the land use 6900.
Well, the land use and the exemption are not the same thing.
But if you look.
You can have an agricultural use that is not a bona fide ag use.
So
For instance, if it didn't make money, you know.
short of having the
hobby farm.
square card, that is all Charlotte County gives us. I'm telling you, Charlotte County's notification process is probably the worst process there is. For me as a beekeeper, I'm governed by the state's BMR. That is our guideline as to what we are
So
required to follow.
That was the next thing I was going to ask. You're following best management practices.
Yes. Unfortunately, Charlotte County's tax office wants us to violate the state's BMR with the number of hives they want per acre. I refuse to violate that law because I'm not going to lose my license because the county wants more per acre. But that is not even the crux of the whole thing here. But yes, we are using best management practices. And we are regularly inspected by the Department of Plant Industry.
I would just like to also add, we've had multiple meetings with, not multiple meetings on this particular issue, but we had a meeting with Mr. Horton and Mr., and I'm sorry, I forgot his name.
Mr. Hall.
Mr. Hall.
Mr. Hall, okay. The question of whether I was bona fide or not has never come up into thing. The question was of the bona fide area. They can testify to the fact that I am under bonification. I don't know how you find that information, but that was never a question in this whole proceeding thing.
The argument is whether we're living or somebody's living in the camper or not. Nobody's living in the camper.
So here's the bonification issue in a nutshell. And Charlotte County had a case years ago where someone put 12 royal palms on a house in Boca Grande and said, I'm bona fide ag, and was able to get their taxes wiped out. So the bonification part is the test where basically go beyond the hobby farm. You know, you have to basically you have to be profitable. You have to actually show income, and I have no doubt that if you're doing the receipts that you have, that it justifies that. But for the Right to Farm Act to apply, you have to qualify for the exemption. I understand the little card isn't very much, and actually your taxes on the property are nominal anyway. It looks like they're $400. Mm-hmm.
But that property would actually be nearly $1,000 right now without the exemption.
Well, I'm not. This is where I'm having the problem, and because this is a very technical argument, and there's 3 prongs that have to be established for Right to Farm Act. It has to be a year, it has to be bona fide ag classified, and it has to have BMP. So I'm sure the county doesn't have any testimony on the BMP, so I'm just going to take that as acknowledged. The 1 year, how long have you been in operation, sir?
January will be 4 years.
Okay, so let's assume that also has been met. The question then becomes, do you have bona fide within the classification required for the Right to Farm Act to apply? Because that is the issue that's going to get you around the permitting requirements. And I'm pulling up the tax records and looking at the property appraiser's bills, and I am not seeing an ag classification on this property.
Parcels on there. Make sure you're looking at both parcels.
Yeah, but both parcels, and I looked at what you're looking at too, sir. I've read that same page you're looking at. I couldn't see where it spelled it out like you're asking for, okay? But I know from my renewal with Amanda in property appraisers, you know, I mean, I did a renewal this year. I didn't do a new. I don't know where it says it in these records, but I do know that we are bona fide.
My farm's the same way. I don't get a document that says I'm bona fide.
They're not
I've got
telling us
over
on
10 acres that I farm, and there is nothing in there that says bona fide. It's how they write it into the tax code. It changes it from vacant residential into an agricultural use. Otherwise, this county has a propensity to leave the properties labeled as vacant residential. It's actually the highest and best tax use for an empty lot, which is why they do it.
Yeah, I'm not as concerned with the list as current use, because I mean, if that's the documentation, what I'm trying to get is if your property is bona fide ag under 193.
That is the bonification for the tax office.
You shouldn't be you shouldn't be assessed as if you're residential, vacant residential, and you are.
It's not being assessed as residential. It clearly says that it's ag. And if you read the second page, it clearly says how much of it is actually considered bona fide. It's not saying the word bona fide, sir. You read on the second page under the land use where it says ag, where it says they actually upped me this year. Last year, they only gave me 0.5 acres on this particular parcel. This year, they went to 0.75 because we did expand out. And next year, we will go to one, whatever it is.
I see the land use classifications in the two
Right.
descriptions, 0.5 and 0.7.
There is literally no document that they give you saying you're bona fide. That is a problem with the tax office. We do not get a document that declares us bona fide. It's
Well,
the
your
way they
trim
write
no-
it for
your-
the tax use.
What I'm looking for is your trim notice that says you've got an agricultural exemption. That the
Oh,
tax-
that doesn't go on there like that. My trim notice does not say agricultural exemption on it for my farm. And I've got quite a few lots that fall under that.
That's the easy way to do it, is I'll pull up a big farm somewhere.
Is there, if you look at the taxation, are you seeing any taxation for
Seeing any exemptions is what
anything other than,
It's all right.
yeah,
It's very vague.
yep. Again, this has been a growing problem with the appraiser's office. We've done our best to try to educate them in the state's Department of Agriculture best management practices. But since I don't work for the county, I can't force anybody at the county to do something.
Okay.
All I can do is make the recommendations and then have the state call them and make the recommendations.
Well, I'm gonna, at this point, I'm really just asking questions based on the materials you provided. I want to get some answers, but I'm not making the county's argument for them. So what's the county's position on the Right to Farm Act application?
Given what Mr. Kalin and the property owner have provided today, the county would suggest that we continue this for 30 days to be able to look at everything that he's brought forth. I do see that the lease that Mr. Kalin brought in is for 11/15/22, which isn't quite a year, so I'm not sure.
No, I
how
renew that lease every single year, ma'am.
It's a continuation of the lease.
Every single year, I sign a new lease.
Okay, well, let's, you know, whether you had 15 leases, I didn't expect you to bring all that today.
Right.
But
I've scanned copies of those if you'd like them.
I'd like to, yeah, if you could, actually, if you just provide it to Ms. Stacio or Mr. Hall, I'm going to go ahead and grant the county's request for continuance for 30 days. That would really, no one wants to put anyone through the ringer if they fall within the exemption. So let's get that issue resolved.
Yeah, because if there's a or if there is a financial impact on this, and it's found out we are bona fide, then everyone in here loses their qualified immunity under the state statutes. They're liable for our loss. So I hate to be a jerk like that, but we're kind of done chasing this down out there. I went through it personally on my farm for nearly 8 years. I don't do it anymore, not gonna do it anymore. So I'm very well versed in the rules and regulations on the Right to Farm Act, because it's not just this. I lease well over 100 acres throughout the county. Very familiar with what goes on for the Right to Farm Act, as well as bonification process. Not all properties qualify even with Bs on them.
Okay.
I'm very familiar with that.
Well,
And not a one of them have received a single document to say you're bona fide. It's just the use code.
Well,
I'll be
let's-
happy to go upstairs and talk to Amanda right now when we leave your office and ask her for some kind of writing
that would be.
or document.
For the questions that I asked, that would be very valuable, but I'll go ahead and give you and the county time to resolve that, and maybe, and if everything works out, dismiss the case. If there's something, a gray area needs to be resolved, and you guys find yourself back in front of me, then we know where we started from, okay?
Absolutely. I just hate to
We're
keep
gonna
wasting
continue- we'll
this
continue it
court's
to next
time.
month.
Given the fact we had our meeting and the gentleman over here acknowledged, yes, you're bona fide.
Sir, when I get that paperwork, who would you like me to bring it to?
Provide all the information, your current contact is Mr. Hall, And then you're probably going to be speaking with Ms. Stacio at some point. But if you got the information from the tax collector's office, please provide that.
The next stop.
Okay.
You have a good day.
Thank you.